So now that we got that, let's start adding our details. So I say let's go first with eyelashes. Now a lot of guys think that their eyelashes, when they draw them, have to be really tiny or not at all, which isn't true. Guys have eyelashes just like girls do. They just don't usually put on the makeup like girls do to make them thicker and bolder, but they're still there. So you still have to draw them. You would just draw less of them and thinner. So with our eyelashes, we got to keep in mind the curve of the way the eyelash is coming out. So if our nose is here in the center, this outer edge will have longer, thicker eyelashes. The inside edge barely has any. Let's start with the top eyelid. Top eyelashes are going to be longer. They're going to be thicker. There's more of them on the top. And we want to start that outer corner, and we are going to do a little curve. It's like we're curving around a circle. So we come out and start to curve it slightly. It is not a straight line. We're also not doing really extreme curved lines like that. That doesn't make sense either. We want a slight curve. And we're starting that outer edge, and we'll work our way around. Now we want eyelashes to be unique. They are not all exactly the same. Some can be a little shorter, some can be a little longer. Now as we hit the middle of the eye, we want to do less of them and spread them out and start to make them shorter. So we'll just have a few as we get past the color, not many at all. Now let's add some details to our eyelashes. We wouldn't want them to be these little stick thin lines. We want to add some depth to them. So eyelashes are actually very long, thin triangles. They start thick at the base and they get thinner as they go up. So on a few of them, I'm going to thicken up the base. And these ones on this outer edge, a lot of times you'll see them curve down just a little bit into the eye itself, or in front of the eye technically, and then curve up and out. Okay. So I'm thickening the bases. Now guys, you might want to thicken them a little bit less because you're not putting the mascara on them or anything like that to make them thicker. But they still have a little bit of thickness to them. Just make that bottom edge just a smidge thicker. That'll help make them look a little bit more realistic. Now I want to add in a bit more. I'm going to do a female eye, so I'm going to add more lashes. So I'm keeping it a bit random, following that curve. I want to put in a bit more on that outer edge. Now eyelashes also like to clump together, so I'll put some in at some funky angles. Let them clump. That's really normal. Okay. There we go. This outer edge, they almost come out flat. We want them to overlap with the ones on the bottom. We'll do that in a second. All right, so we got that upper eyelashes. Now for the lower eyelashes, we want to actually put in the thickness of the eyelid because you see how thick your lower eyelid is. So we're going to do a parallel line running along the bottom. Now it is a very thin line, thin little section. It follows the curve of your lower eyelid. As we hit about the middle of the eye, get past the iris, it's going to get real thin and kind of disappear. There we go. So this thin little line going parallel with that lower eyelid. So this is the thickness. This is the edge of your eyelid. So the lashes are actually going to come out of this second line that we drew, not the first one. Okay. Lower eyelashes are going to curl out and down. They're going to be shorter. There's going to be less of them. But we want to make sure we overlap this corner. I would not want to start and leave a little V-shaped opening here. That's kind of funky and weird. We want them to overlap. Okay. Bottom eyelashes also tend to be less curled because they're a lot shorter. There's a lot less that can happen with them. So I start putting some everywhere. Again, once they pass that iris, really thin, really small, disappear. We don't want to bring them all the way out to that corner. Now I'm going to take some of these and thicken up their bases, just like we did on that upper eyelid, or upper eyelashes, making them look a bit more realistic. Now I'll put in a bit more, because they're pretty sparse right now. And again, these ones can kind of clump together. So you see how I got them kind of making that little V's? Every once in a while doing that helps make it look more realistic. There we go. Again, filling in, overlapping that outer corner. Okay, now let's talk about details within the eye itself. Let's go with, I forgot to draw the tear duct in here. So we have the tear duct. I forgot to do the curve of the eyeball itself. So think of the eyeball as a sphere. It is a ball. If we follow the edge of that ball, it's going to curve this way. Just like your circles here have that curve going that way, we're going to have a little curve line there. There we go. Now let's add some highlights into our eye. I like to do the highlight first so I know where not to color or fill in. I'm going to use my light just like I have here in my room. The light is shining from the upper left and is casting a shadow down to the right. So that means my highlight's going to be up and to the left. I like to do almost a little pizza or pie-shaped wedge that doesn't go all the way to the outer edge. And then I just cut off the bottom so it does not come to a point. It's like a slice of pizza, a slice of pie with the tip cut off, like you've had that first bite. So this is where my highlight's going to be. Notice it does not go all the way to the edge. This area will stay perfectly white. So I'm going to erase my pupil line in there. We will not draw or shade inside this little pizza wedge. So let's start by making our pupil nice and dark. So our pupil is black, so we want to fill it in as dark as we can. I would recommend using the 4B or 6B pencils for this. They create a really dark value really easily. All right, fill it all the way in, except for that little pizza wedge for our highlight. You don't want to see any individual pencil lines. It wants to be a solid value. Okay. Now we're going to do our design in the iris. I would not recommend using a mechanical pencil for this. It's a little bit harder to smudge. I would recommend a wooden pencil, maybe a 2B, maybe even a 4B of my good drawing pencils would work well as well. You'll see me use this as well. I don't have any drawing pencils with me. This is actually just a graphite stick. So your pencil lead is graphite. This is a giant pencil lead. It is great for doing drawings where you need a lot of shading done really quickly. I happen to have this handy, so that's what I'll be using. Again, the wooden pencils, if you have nice art pencils, 2B or 4B work really great for this. Okay, so the iris has a pattern in a radial design. So that means it's coming out from the center evenly. So I'm going to start by lightly putting in some just random, almost zigzaggy lines coming out from that center. This helps kind of mark what way the design in the iris is going to go. Now we don't want to stop there. We want to keep going. I start by smudging it. So I take my finger, smudge it all the way around. The iris has a color to it, whether it's blue or brown or green or gray, whatever it is. That means we need to have some value. So I'm going to smudge it with my finger. Now I've lost a lot of the details. I'm going to switch to something a little darker so you can see it. So I'm going to go back and put in some of them, and I'm going to keep it random. So I'm not doing all my little zigzaggy lines. I'm just going to put in some of them, have some thick, some short, some longer. Smudge. There we go. Okay. Now, your eyelashes and upper eyelid cast a shadow. So this upper edge is going to be quite a bit darker. So working around my little highlight there, I'm going to shade that a bit darker, smudge it so it's not so harsh. There we go. Bottom eyelid doesn't cast a shadow, but it's nice to make it a little bit darker on the bottom just to help reference that it is a sphere. It's going to be darker on the edge. Okay. Now, most people, that outer edge of their iris is a bit darker. So I'm going to make a darker line, and then I'm going to randomly do these little jagged zigzaggies kind of sticking in. So some areas will be thicker, some will be thinner, just like that. Fill them in. Okay. So it is not just that outer edge, it is actually that design coming around. Okay, do the same on the other side. So I start with a darker line. I'm going to do kind of zigzaggy, random little pokes or triangles sticking out from the center. Some can be a lot longer, or sticking in from that outer edge, not center, sorry. Smudge it a bit. Okay, you might see a few sticking up from the bottom, and we might see a few coming down from the top, but not as much. Now I'll probably just go in and add a few more darker spots, little lines coming out from the center. And we're following that radial design. Now you can have thicker areas of value. They don't have to be all small little lines. That's why I like doing a wooden pencil that's a bit softer lead. So a 4B, 2B, maybe even a 6B. That'll get you some thicker little smudges there. Smudge it out with my finger. There we go. I might have gotten a little too dark in places, so I might take my eraser and kind of following that radial design. So my lines are coming out from the center or in from that outer edge. I might lighten it up just a little. I got a little overzealous. There we go. Okay. Now my highlight needs to stay white, so I might go back in there with the eraser. Make sure that stays white, much better. Now let's add some shadows to the eye. Again, wooden pencil, much better. The eyelid, as we said, is casting a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to very, very lightly put in a little extra gray along that upper edge and smudge it. Not a lot, because it's still the white part of the eye. Come back and erase a bit of that. We'll have the same coming out from the outer edge sphere, so those corners are going to be a little bit darker. Again, we're working very light with this because it's all shades on white. So these got really dark really fast. So I'm going to have to take my eraser and clean it up. So I'll clean up around my eye, clean up that outer edge, smudge it slightly. That's better. There we go. Eyes are rarely a crisp white. Most people have a little bit more of an off-white color to it, so it's okay to have this gray in there. We just don't want it super dark because it's still an eye. What is happening with my pencil? There we go. I might even thicken up some of my eyelashes a little bit. Again, I'm going for more of a girl's eye. If I was doing a guy's eye, I would not add any more value to my eyelashes. Okay. I'll also put a little bit of value in the teardrop. Now, a lot of times we'll see a couple very light little curves in there. It's kind of just the skin overlapping on each other. Just little tiny curves, not much. And that's pretty much the gist of the eye. We could add a couple little details now. There are the creases. A lot of people have creases in their eyelid. Crease is going to follow along the curve of your eye and kind of come out at that corner. So again, following that curve about there, and smudge it just a little because it's not a harsh line. It's a little bit of a shadow. Okay. If you're old and tired like me, you might have bags under your eye. Bags come out following the circle of the sphere of your eyeball itself. So if we think of the eyeball, it's a big circle here. This bottom curve is where the bags of your eyes go. So if you're drawing someone older, maybe if they stayed up all night playing video games or studying, they might have a very light line drawn there and smudge it. Just make the bags under their eye. Now I just look very tired. So there you have it. There is your eye. I'd follow the exact same thing, but backwards to do the left eye. A lot of times people will do one eye a lot because they practice it more. That's just the one they always do. Like I always tend to do the right eye, but I rarely practice my left eye. So my left eye tends to not be as good. So I really recommend make sure you're practicing drawing both eyes, not just one. But for the video's purpose, I'm just going to show you one. You can do the reverse process for the opposite side. And there you have it. That's how you draw your details for the eye.